Today, we're exploring something that quietly shapes our everyday lives, the places we call home. Home isn't just where we live. It's where our nervous system settles or stays on alert. It's where our energy is supported, held, or sometimes challenged. I'm excited and really delighted to be joined today by Kimberley Gallagher. She is the writer of A Calm and Happy Home, a well-known Feng Shui expert. Kimberley is British by birth and now lives on the Gold Coast in Australia with her husband and daughter, where she teaches Feng Shui and supports people all over the world to create calmer, happier homes. I was introduced to Kimberley through Ali Mortimer. I was having lunch with Ali and I said, I'm longing to know more about Feng Shui. And she said, best person in the world, you need to contact Kimberley Gallagher. So she spoke so highly of your work, Kimberley, and the integrity and depth that you bring to it. And I'm very, very grateful for that connection. So this conversation isn't about rules or perfect homes. It's about awareness, energy, and small, meaningful shifts that can make a real difference to how we feel where we live. So wherever you're listening from, perhaps at home, perhaps out walking, I invite you to soften, arrive, and join us. Welcome, Kimberley. This is really an honour.
Oh my goodness, that was the most beautiful introduction. Thank you so much.
Well, I have been looking forward to this for quite a while. I want to know what first drew you to Feng Shui. Was there a moment when it shifted or became of interest to you?
Yeah, so I think I always like to tell people that it's not something that I've been around in my family. You know, I was born and raised in Nottingham. My dad was a painter and decorator. Not that that's got anything to do with being, spiritual or anything like that, but there was nothing of energetic sorts in our house. But we were raised in a really lovely environment. It was really calm. It was fun. It wasn't an argumentative home. So that to me was just really normal, which I know I'm so blessed to have experienced that. And so I think for me, a lot of people sort of seek out maybe something slightly different when things aren't necessarily going well in their life. And it's just like with medicine, if you try maybe the Western route, that doesn't work. That's when you start to go, oh, maybe a chiropractor or maybe acupuncture will work. And I feel that that's the same with our wellness, although I do think things have come on leaps and bounds over the last even just 5 years, which is incredible. We are talking more, we're learning more, we're experimenting more, and we're realizing that there's more to just one pathway of doing things. And so my mind was open to Feng Shui in lockdown. So it was a lockdown story, and I feel that many people have lockdown stories. And, my lockdown was, it was fine. My husband went to work here, so he worked in construction. So he actually went to work, which I actually think was a blessing for our marriage that he wasn't, at home. I was quite lucky with that. But I was homeschooling my daughter, who's 8, and it was just me, my daughter, and my dog at home. And I struggled. And after I had my daughter, I had postnatal depression, and I put all the tools in place. Like after a couple of years, it took me a couple of years to realize actually and it wasn't until I was feeling better that I was like, oh, that wasn't a good place that I was in. So I had all of these practices in place to help my mental health. And one of them was like exercise. And I played a lot of tennis and being around people and being outside. That was my big thing. And so lockdown came, and obviously that was taken away. It was taken away from a lot of people. And I felt that I didn't have that toolbox of stuff that I knew would help me. And so I could feel that anxiety like building inside of me. And I used to listen, and I still do, even in Australia, to Chris Evans' breakfast show on Virgin Radio. It is like the sparkle in the morning. He doesn't coat everything in rainbows, but he puts this positive spin on your day. It's amazing. And he was saying in lockdown, the things that he did every day to help keep his mental health good. And so one of them was, going out for your run when you whatever time you were allowed outside, which seems like mental now that was even a thing. Yeah. And he also wrote affirmations. So every morning, today is going to be an amazing day. I see the light in the day, all of these things. And then the other thing was that he listened to podcasts, because the news was just this like constant stream of information that wasn't necessarily positive, but it was just coming in thick and fast. And we're not built to deal with that. Like, we're not built to have negativity or even just information 24/7. So I stopped the news, rightly or wrongly. Personally, I just can't cope. I find everything in my own life takes up enough of my energy and mental space that to worry about everything else in the world, I sort of, start spiraling. I don't ignore it, but I can't let myself go there. Anyway, so I started listening to podcasts, and I didn't really know where to start. So I knew of someone that started one. She lived in Bali, and I was like, oh, that's quite exotic. Like, just dreaming of listening to somebody in Bali. And she had a Feng Shui consultant on her podcast. And I was like, don't really know what it is. I thought I knew what it was, as in you've just got to have a really pristine home and white furniture and, have a dragon at your front door or whatever it was. And she was saying to the host about how you can use Feng Shui to attract a partner in your life. Because the host was single, she was looking for a partner. And my instant reaction was, what a load of rubbish. I can see myself now. I was vacuuming our bedroom at the time because it was the only thing to do was like clean. And I just remember like in my headphones going, like, what on earth am I listening to? And then, of course, you get invested in podcasts. And so you listen. And then in a couple of weeks' time, the host, she met somebody. And I was like, is this just like a random coincidence? Now, this is a really good lesson. She wasn't with him for very long. So she met somebody, but not the right person. So in terms of putting your whatever intentions out there, be really clear about what you want, not just anybody. And so something just sparked inside of me. And I thought, right, I'm going to do some research. Is it a coincidence or is it not? And so just sort of went on to Google. And the first thing that came up was a list of all of these super successful people from around the world, from business people to celebrities. Reportedly there's Richard Branson, Madonna, Gwyneth Paltrow, the Beckhams, and literally the list went on. And I thought, well, there must be something in this. And then I got cross and I was like, well, why do they know about it and I don't? Like, if they are now living in lockdown in these beautifully calm houses, having businesses that are still flowing with income, because I was a teacher for 10 years up until this point. I got made redundant throughout lockdown. I was an equine science teacher, so really different to Feng Shui. So I taught horse biology. And I know, so finding another role like that was going to be really difficult. So I started a wellness business online. I started it in February 2020, the worst timing ever. And I just couldn't get it off the ground. And I just thought, okay, this may be what I need, because I've tried everything else. If you're into manifestation or anything like that, sometimes people say like, write your intentions on Post-it notes or do this. And so literally like my side of the bathroom and then my husband's side, like I had all of these things on Post-it notes down my mirror saying, this is what I want to do. This is how much money I want to make, all of these things. And then when that didn't work, I read somewhere that you burn them on the full moon. So I burnt them on the full moon and then that didn't work. And then somebody said, oh, bury them. I was like, right, I'll bury them on the full moon. They're probably still there in Surrey now. I tried it all. And nothing was working. And I thought, okay, like I'm going to give it this one last shot. And so Feng Shui works on your intentions. And we use the 5 elements. So water, fire, wood, earth, and metal. So we use these around the house. And don't get me wrong, it does not pass me by that this sounds bonkers. I totally get that. But adding these things, how on earth does it work? But at this point, I thought, well, what have I got to lose? So my intentions were to have a calm house again. But really, it was to do with my business, which might sound a bit selfish, but that's where I was really struggling with, because I thought if I can bring in an income, then actually a lot of what's stressing me out is going to dissolve at least a little bit. So my intentions were to have a business that brought me happiness, that I could help people, that I could do all around the world, because at that point I knew that we were moving to Australia, that I could be financially independent, but also be financially independent enough that if I wanted to sail our family ship by myself, that I could doing a job that I loved. Like, how cool would that be?
How cool indeed.
And so yeah, like just this dream. It was pie in the sky stuff that, as a teacher, I was on a part-time wage, and, don't get me wrong, we lived in a nice house. Like, it was a lovely house, and we went on lovely holidays. But my money, like, there wasn't much that I could do with the amount that I had left at the end of every month. And I wanted to do more. I wanted to contribute more. I wanted to contribute to our holidays, or if my friend said, oh, we're doing a girls' weekend somewhere, but I didn't go into a panic thinking, because I don't want to ask for money. I never wanted to ask my husband for money, or to get my hair done, or, all things like that. I was done with that. I was like 40. I don't want to be asking permission for stuff. Not that he ever judged it, but it was just that inner thing, really. And so I put the remedies in with these intentions. And then 1 month later, I had an email from the lady who Feng Shuied my home to say that she was running her last ever practitioner course. Would I consider doing it? Now, up until that point, it had never crossed my mind that this was a business that I was going to end up in, that I'd be interested in, or that this might have been my pathway. Never in a million years. But I remember getting the email, and I just sat on the edge of my bed and I was like, this is it. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't an easy decision because, as I said, I wasn't working, and the course was 10,000 American dollars. I did not have 10,000 American dollars at all. So it was a conversation with my husband to take it out of our family savings. Now, bearing in mind, he had no idea that I'd Feng Shuied the house in the first place because I did it all in secret. I was now saying, oh, there's this course that I want to do. Can I borrow $10,000 from our account to do a course? And he was like, what? I mean, he sort of laughed at the same time. But he also saw something in me that was like, this is what I really want to do. And I just said to him, I was like, I'll pay you back. And he was like, how? I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to pay you back, but I will make it work. And it's amazing. When you go to know, I don't know how, but it's going to happen. And that was one of the best decisions that I've ever made. And, here I am now, and this is my job, and I love it, and I help thousands of people around the world. I've got my book and been on TV and radio and all of these incredible
both in the UK and Australia, haven't you? I mean, you're renowned now on the back of a start where you were very suspicious of
totally.
It does make me smile because I have a daughter called Yona, and she lives out here, and she thinks I'm very woohoo. And she was putting her house up for sale, and I suggested a few things that came from a combination of you and a lady called Yvonne. And she said, "Oh God, Mum, really?" I said, "Yeah, please just do it. Just try it. I mean, what have you got to lose? A bit of ribbon under your sink and a red ribbon under your sink, something red by your door, and clear the clutter in it." Anyway, she did it. The house went on the market on the Friday. She had 3 people round on the Saturday morning because it's all open house out here, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
It's not like in the UK.
It's hectic.
It is hectic. Well, the first person that walked through the door offered the full price cash. The second person offered a lower price, and the third person didn't. But they took it straight off.
Oh, I've
They
got
moved
goosebumps.
in UK timings. They moved impossibly quickly. I think they found a house the following week, and it was something like 3 weeks later they moved. You could never do that in a house.
No.
Buy and sell a house in sort of 4 or 5 weeks. You couldn't do it. I mean, it takes.
We did here. We did. We
Did
so
you?
we sold and moved in 2 weeks. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that timescale to many people because it was quite a lot. And then about 4 weeks later, I launched my book as well. So there was a lot going on. But with Feng Shui, all the tips, all of the remedies in place, setting my intention crystal clear, we sold and moved in 2 weeks. Again, we had an offer. It was cash. We found a house that wasn't on the market, but they just decided, actually, yeah, we don't want it anymore. And 2 weeks, yeah.
So it was men. Let's talk about your book a little bit, A Calm and Happy Home. I love the fact that you included in there I call it, like in the introduction really, Feng Shui magic, which is a whole load of quotes from people whose lives have been changed through Feng Shui, through you. But I love this quote particular from Nicola Lewis, aka This Girl Can Organize. So she's an author, professional organizer and creator. As someone who truly believes in the power of a calm and clutter-free home, The Calm and Happy Home by Kimberley Gallagher completely spoke to my heart. It's not just a guide. It's a personal story of transformation, written with warmth, honesty, and humor. This book shows how your home can support your energy, mindset, and dreams in the most powerful way. I love how it makes Feng Shui feel relatable and modern, with practical steps anyone can take, no matter where you live or what your home looks like. A must read if you want your space to work with you, not against you. I think that's fantastic. And also, I am about halfway through it, but I want to actually reread it in my home so that I can, because I'm on the move a lot right now. But, you've kept this so simple, 3 clear parts to it, broken down into chapters. And I think, declutter checklists, boosting your career, do's and don'ts around your home. That's so straightforward. And I've tended to think of Feng Shui as quite a complicated sort of system. What does a calm and happy home feel like for you?
Sorry, sometimes I get so overwhelmed that you've got my book in front of you. Like it's just this, it's honestly, it's this beautiful dream. And to hear that it makes sense to people was my biggest thing with this book, because it can be so complicated. I've read quite a few Feng Shui books. Either one of them was like, oh, my house is doomed forever. Like we've got to move, or it's so complicated, I don't know, what they're talking about. And so to hear that on the receiving end of the book, that you feel it's really easy to follow means so much. And I worked really hard on that. And I think I rewrote it about 6 times to make sure that it flowed, that it made sense. And I think what was really nice about that, I'll come to your question in a minute, but what was really great was that I was really sad when I finished teaching, because I loved it. I worked with 16 to 18-year-old kids that were not the star pupils at all. It was a land-based college. They came there because they found the classroom really difficult. So my love language almost was like taking these really complicated subjects and turning it into a fun thing for them, and learning the bones and muscles on horses. We used to paint the horses, and then we'd watch them move around so you can see the movement in the horses. And so for me, when I wrote the book, I wanted it to create this vision in people's minds so that it spoke to everybody. And also because I wanted to include about neurodiverse homes in there as well. that it was making it easy to follow for people who are neurodiverse. And I have a wonderful friend, Georgina Roach, and she is dyslexic. She has a neurodiverse household. And I was speaking to her about how can I make this accessible for everybody, and she was like, you just need to do an audiobook, and the audiobook will then be able to reach everybody. So I tried my hardest to make it as accessible to everybody, because I want people to experience this calm and happy home. And I think the easiest way to explain it is, if you imagine coming through your front door, how do you feel? Do you feel that your body can exhale and you walk in and you can be true to yourself? You don't have to pretend. You don't have to watch what you say. You can, metaphorically, like we do when we come in, take our outdoor clothes off, put your indoor clothes on, but in your mind as well, and sort of take off that outer layer and be like, okay, this is truly who I am. And it's not necessarily the people that you're surrounded by as well, but like, do you have a space? I'm not saying your whole house has to be perfect, but everybody needs a space where at the end of the day, they can come back and decompress. Because as we mentioned earlier, there is information overload, and we're constantly around people. We're constantly around noise. And so we need to come back to a home that supports our own nervous system so that we can recharge. Some people recharge by being around other people, and some people recharge by being around nobody and recharging from the inside rather than the outside. So what you should feel is every home is individual, but when you come through your front door, can you be true to yourself and fully relax in your home? And that is what a calm and happy home is.
Right. Okay. The other thing you put in your book is that every home has a personality of its own.
Mm.
And I think that's a beautiful thing, because we don't think of structures as having personality.
No.
So
It's like, sorry.
No, you carry on. Carry on.
The way I describe it is like people. And I know buildings are buildings, but everything has energy. And we know that. And people will have an energy that you relate to, and you pick up on that energy. Upbeat people, you pick up on that energy, it lifts you up. People that are a bit of a downer, it makes you feel down when you're around them. And so we naturally gravitate towards people. They may have opposite personalities, but your core is the same. Your values, your respect, your sense of humor, maybe, like all of those things, you come together and meet in the middle. And your home has an energy as well. And we know this when we look around houses or apartments, like when we go and rent or buy. Quite often we will choose a house because of the way it feels. So you will walk in and you go, oh, this feels lovely. Or you may walk out and go, it was nice, but there was just something about it and I didn't like it. And that's a feeling. But when we move into a space, everything just becomes quite functional and transactional. So the kitchen is where you cook, the living room is where you watch TV, the bedroom is where you sleep. And you forget that feeling. And what happens is you will match the feeling of that space. So a space that feels quite cold may make you feel quite lonely, or a house may have quite a lot of busyness around it, and they're the houses that attract a lot of chaos. And when we moved into our new house here, like, this is honestly our dream home. It's the most beautiful home that I could ever dream of being in. But it was tricky when we moved in. It had a tricky personality. Nobody had really lived here. Nobody had loved it. And it was almost like, if you're trying to build a relationship with somebody that's been burnt before, they're really standoffish. Like, I do not need people in my life. I'm quite happy being independent. I will conquer this world by myself. And that's what our home was like. Like, I don't need people here. Like, it was used for photography or like a bit of filming. So it wasn't used to softening. And I know it sounds mad when you think, oh, it's just a house. Like, but it really was, it had this cold feeling. And, when we moved in, things were difficult, like trying to order stuff or hanging, like just not like you'd put it, nothing was easy, put it that way. Like everything, there was a stumbling block. And it was almost like it was throwing us these curveballs to go, are you really going to stay? Are you going to stay? I'm just going to throw this one in. Like, we'd come home and there'd be like a massive huntsman on the side of the, of the wall. And we've lived here for 2 years. Well, it's 2.5 years now in our old house. I've never seen a spider since we've moved here. Not one. And then since we've moved here, there's been 3 absolutely massive ones. And it's almost, and the last one I saw, I was like, come on. Like, we've proved to you now, we're not going anywhere. If you could just stop throwing us these spiders, especially, but these curveballs, like things like when we moved in, the TV worked and then all of a sudden it didn't. Like, all of these, just like these little stumbling blocks. And it's taken a while for it to soften and to get used to our energy. So I think that's one of the first things I say to people. And it's the first thing I say in my book as well. Like, if you had to describe the personality of your home, how would you describe it? Like, is it a friend? Does it have a sense of humor? Is it light? Do conversations flow freely? Or is it a bit stubborn? Is it stuck in its ways? Has it lost its sense of humor? Or is it cold and very serious and you may struggle to sleep? So there's all of these different personalities. And I think once you open yourself up to seeing that your home does have a personality and an energy, that's when you can really start working together and making it a space that feels so much better.
So, what would your advice be if somebody was feeling stuck or overwhelmed or anxious? What would be the first thing that you would look at in their home?
I would. So there's a few things. And I know people say to me, what's the one rule of Feng Shui? I'm like, well, I'm going to give you 5. But so because it's like layering. So like when you meet somebody for the first time, you don't decide that you're going to be their best friend after one interaction. It can take about 7 times for you to meet somebody, for you to trust them. Yeah. And so that's the same with your home. Like, there's a few things that I want you to do. One of them is to talk to your home and literally come through and introduce yourself to it. And again, I know it sounds mad. Nobody has to hear you. Just put your hand on the wall. And I did this to our home. I was like, hi, I'm Kimberley. We are going to look after you. And I could see my husband looking around because we were here with a real estate person. I could see him looking around going, what are you doing? Hi, don't worry about me. But just put your hand on the wall, like introduce yourself. And, sometimes our homes have seen us through some amazing times. And sometimes our homes have seen us through some really tricky times as well. And show your home gratitude for whatever it has shown you through. And having that gratitude for your home. And I've known many of my clients do this, and actually it's been quite emotional for them. Like, they've sort of released this emotion about their home, either that they've never had a relationship with the home. It's literally just been a place that they come back, sleep, rest, cook, and then they go out again the next day. Or there's been so much going on that they've almost blocked that relationship because it's too hard to maybe go through some of those things. So the first thing is introduce your home and be open to working out its personality. Then it's about understanding that we have a certain amount of control of the energy within the house. And energy needs to flow around your home. And if you think like out with the old and in with the new, if you feel, if everything in your life is going perfectly, you don't need Feng Shui in your life. Just like you wouldn't go to the doctor and then go through acupuncture and chiropractor if your neck wasn't wonky like mine. But if things are a little bit wobbly in your life, that's when Feng Shui can help. So like, if you feel that you're just going round in circles, whether that's with health, your career, your relationships, your wealth, for example, then it could be an indication that the energy is just getting stuck in your home. So a really simple thing is good energy is coming in through your front door. If you live in an apartment, this will be your balcony, like your view where all this lovely energy is coming from. Open the front door to let the good energy in, and your back door lets the bad energy out. So actually do it in the opposite way. So you open your back door, let that energy go, and then open your front door and welcome in this good energy. And we know what it's like when you take a breath of fresh air, just to go, this is amazing. And like, I know that some places around the world are really, really hot or really, really cool. I had a lady that did my course. She lives in Melbourne. It was like 44 degrees there yesterday. And she's like, I'm still opening my door. Like I'm still letting my house breathe, because otherwise it's just, there's too much for it to hold. And then think, okay, so you're creating this movement out with the odd and in with the new. Can the energy actually move around your home? And so I know you spoke about like decluttering and what Nicola said as well. The more stuff that's in the way, the harder it is for the energy to move around your home. I'm not saying you're not allowed to have any decor or anything like that, but can the energy actually move around? So when you open your front door, is it full of coats, bags, shoes, all of that sort of stuff? Or is it free for it to enter and for it to move around? And then as it's moving around, it's going to pick up on what's there. So if anything is broken or cracked, for example, then that's almost like, the energy is almost like a stream running through your house. And if you threw like a boulder into a stream, it causes this ripple, or stone into the stream. It will cause a ripple. And if you think that's like the energy flowing through your house, like if something's in the way, it will cause this ripple. So we want a lovely soft flow around. And also that your home, so I think the word decluttering can be really overwhelming. So you think, I don't know where to start. There's so much to do. So I'm just going to do nothing and hope that it just goes away by itself. And actually what happens is it doubles. So I think the way to maybe think of it, there's two ways of thinking of it. One, everything in your home should either be super practical, so you really need it, or bring you joy and happiness. So your artwork, you need to look at it and go, that's why I have that picture there. Like I've got a blank wall behind me at the minute, in my office. I've found a picture finally that I love, because I could have just gone and just stuck something behind me. But for me, artwork is so powerful. It's like these visual affirmations, and you've got to relate to that artwork. And so really have a look around and think, does the artwork bring me joy and happiness? Do these pictures bring me joy and happiness as well? We have so much guilt associated with having pictures of people maybe up that we don't necessarily love, or maybe things that people have gifted us and we keep them because we feel that we have to. And what I would say is, if you're going to move, so joy and happiness is one, and if you're going to move home, would you take it with you? And if you're going to take it with you, then that shows that it has a purpose and a place in your life. And even just those small things, and because I like a rule helps me. So can the energy move around the house? Can it enter to start with? Then can it move? Do things bring you joy and happiness? And if you moved, would you take it with you?
Wow. Okay. Out of curiosity, what's your picture of that you've chosen for your office?
Oh, so it's been tricky because Feng Shui isn't a massive fan of abstract art, because it's almost like it's this unclear vision of what it is that you want in your life. So this picture, it's called Halo. And it's like golds and creams, and it's like these little feathers that are in the shape of like half a crescent of a halo, because I really feel that I've been surrounded by these beautiful angels all around the world, all the people that follow me on Feng Shui Flow and just been part of it. I feel that we're just these beautiful little magical angels all around the world. So the fact that it's called Halo just reminds me that I'm like backed by this most supportive community ever. And I feel that it will give me the confidence to do things, because this success has been incredible, but I don't want people to think that it doesn't scare me because it does. And I have to do things that petrify me and that have big stakes and big financial stakes as well. And I just feel that having that behind me will give me that confidence.
And it's interesting you should say that, because your book is cream and gold as a outer cover. So there's something in there, isn't there, where there's a...
There is. And the gold, so metal in Feng Shui it's a really good absorber of negative energy, but it also brings a really solid foundation. As we know, metal it's a solid foundation. It will support you. And gold is a slightly warmer metal than maybe like a silver. So it has a bit of heart in there as well. So yeah, the metal element was important.
Hearts of gold. There we are. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen a small change in a home that's created a really big shift in someone's life? And what surprised you the most about that transformation?
I mean, the moving house ones always, I say they blow me away. I shouldn't be surprised because I know it works. But just like your story, like my story, or people have put a statue of a galloping horse at the front of their entrance. This represents movement. And so having that at the front of their home, small things like that, and they've had the most seamless transition of moving. There are people that so in Feng Shui, we divide the home into 9 different areas. And each of these areas represents an area of our life. And the southeast looks after wealth, prosperity, and abundance. And wealth means something completely different to everybody. But we can create these like wealth bowls, we call them. And it's literally like a glass bowl. And in it, you put in what it is that you would like to attract from a wealth point of view. And one lady, it was on the Q&A this week, she put an amount that she needed to pay off some debt. And she received a check in the post this week with a little bit more, like completely unexpected as well, that would cover that amount. I've worked with a lady, and there's different levels of Feng Shui, like the wealth bowl is, like that really lovely entry level, or where you work with me and we analyze your home, we put all the remedies in like I did. There was one lady who I worked with a couple of years ago, and we had in Australia Christmas 24, we had really bad storms, and really bad on Christmas Day. And we analysed her home, and her home was the only one that wasn't damaged on the whole of her street. The only thing that was damaged was her front door. And when we analyse the home, we say what element it is, and it's believed that if your front door is the right colour for your home, then it brings you extra luck and prosperity. But her front door was like the completely wrong colour. And so it's almost like going, okay, I've saved you, but the door is damaged, so you need to get a new front door, and then you can have it in the colour that is the element of your home. And that, and she didn't even tell me that. I literally bumped into her in a crystal shop down the road. She was like down here from somewhere else, and she's like, Kimberley, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've just seen you. This is what's happened. And for me, that was really something quite special.
It's incredible to think, isn't it? I mean, it couldn't have survived 4,000 years, Feng Shui, without there being something to keep it alive, so...
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, and I am a great believer in energy anyway, because I teach Qigong, and I get it. But I would imagine for you, coming from a teaching background, even though I'm not heard of, what's it, equine?
Equine science. It's like horse biology is what I used to teach.
Equine, I haven't even heard of it before. You must have had to learn a huge amount, whether it's about well, to some degree, Taoism, energies. I mean, there's a science to this, isn't there, as well?
Yeah. Yeah. But it just made sense to me, Kate. You know when for the first time it just clicked. I got it. It's almost like I can it's like I can see energy, which I know sounds crazy, but
It does.
I can look at a home and I'll know whether it's happy or sad. I can meet a person and I'll know that there's something we could do in their home that would help them on the outside. And yes, there was a lot to learn, but I think when you're really into something, it's not a chore. You literally want to absorb every single crumb that there is to absorb about it. Whether that's languages, like people that are into languages, quite often they don't just know one, they can speak many because it flows to them. They get it, they love it. They love the poetry of learning languages or maths. If you get it, you just want to know more and more and more. For me, those classical, school subjects weren't necessarily a thing. And I think I experienced that so I went back. I used to work in human resources. Honestly, if you saw my CV, it's the most eclectic mix of things that I've done. But I used to work in human resources, decided that I wanted to learn more about horses. I used to be around horses when I was younger. And I went back to university to learn about it. And I used to find science really hard at school. It just didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Physics, chemistry, biology, I was like, I struggle. But when I was being taught by somebody who was really passionate about what they taught, and I was in an environment where I could look, touch, and feel the horses and be around them, it opened up a whole new world of learning to me. And that's when I remember being in a classroom and I was like, I want to be a teacher. This is what I want to do. I want to be this person that can help change people's educational story, because everybody can learn. It just needs to be taught in a way that makes sense to everybody. And so when I did my PGCE, which is like the English version of the sort of teaching qualification, and teaching the students, 16 to 18-year-olds, it was an education for me. Like it was a lot, but I loved it. I loved it because it challenged me every single day. And so when I started learning about Feng Shui, I knew how I learnt. I knew what unlocked things. And for me, it's a visual thing. And Feng Shui, as much as it's about energy that you can't see, what I do is a lot of it is looking at houses and looking at floor plans and people telling me their stories, and I can create this image as to what's happening in their house. And so, yes, there was a lot to learn, but my goodness, when you love something, it feels like I've been awakened in this language that just makes utter sense to me. But I also am fully appreciative of the fact that it's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's totally fine. And not everybody has to understand it. And, my husband isn't spiritual or anything like that, but his view is that, if it makes people happy, then surely there's something in it. And that's enough. Like you said, with selling the house, like, what's the worst that can happen? And I think if you view it like that, then you're opening yourself up to, it's worth giving it a try.
Absolutely. And you've got a daughter. How does Feng Shui sort of show up in family life and in your home?
It's always like just the silent person in the house. Like, when things are in place, it's not really a topic of conversation. People think it's almost like this religion that every day I'm doing this thing, and I'm talking about it, and Taoism and all of these things. I don't really talk about it every day. However, having said that, sometimes I'll hear him go, why have I got this picture in my bedroom? I'm like, she's going, is it Feng Shui? I'm like, yes, it's Feng Shui. Or like, why is there a Christmas candle still in her little snug room?
Yeah.
She goes, is it Feng Shui? I'm like, yeah, it's Feng Shui. And so it's almost like this, this thing that sort of makes us smile, really. And it's just now part of our normal living, really. It's not a daily thing that you have to, get up and do all of these things. It's just part of silently what is supporting us in our home.
And are you putting these things in place to support her emotional security? Is that part of the thinking behind it, or just because it creates harmony?
It's the whole house. So I think
Yeah.
sometimes people come to me and go, oh, my child really needs help in this situation. They've got exams coming up or they've had really bad anxiety. But what we have to understand is the house as a whole. We treat the whole house. And I think it's like holistic medicine. So, I've been to, had acupuncture before and you're like, oh, my shoulder hurts. And they're like, oh, it's coming from your little toe. And I'm like, how? Like, what is this link here? And, it might not be as extreme as that, but still, the whole body is linked all the way through, like reflexology. Amazing. And that's the same in the home. So actually what could be happening downstairs in one side of the house will still be impacting upstairs in their bedroom. So we treat the whole house together. And I think when we calm down so yes, it works on your intention. So you put it in and you can use your intentions. And I think, again, people get quite hung up on, well, what does an intention look like? What do I have to say? Do I have to say a manifestation in the future tense or the present tense? Or do I have to say a thank you with it as well? And I think sometimes people are so scared to do it that they just don't actually do it. So I think it's literally daydreaming. Like, how, in the most perfect day, how would I like my house to feel? More conversations, everybody sleeps well. And I think if you can build up from these foundations of good sleep, good communication, rest, then everything else comes on top of that. And yes, there is a wealth element to it as well. And some homes can support you from a wealth perspective. Some of them, it feels like the money comes in and it literally just goes out again. So most of the time in people's homes, we're treating the money side of things, and Feng Shui literally breaks it down into money and people. And we wanting to get the most out of both of those things. And so, yes, it helps people individually, but it's the whole house that could be impacting that one person.
Right. Okay. Now, I love coming to Australia. I come every year. I just find the landscape, being by the sea. I don't know. There is so much. The climate, and obviously for me, family. It's the heart of why I come. How do you think Feng Shui has affected you? Because there will be in terms of having moved here from the UK, our houses are smaller in the UK. They're much more compact. We've got a colder climate. I kind of arrive here and I go, oh, I can sort of feel like I'm a bit of chocolate melting softly. This is so I wondered if how that has affected you and your transition over here.
I think you're right. Like, I feel so grateful to be near the ocean and to have the sunshine. It makes a massive difference because I did have sad, like, seasonal affective disorder in the UK. I really struggled in the dark, really struggled. And as I say, like, I had to be really on top of my mental health in the UK as well. Having said that, I think the polar opposites of life in terms of the brightness, the lightness, the space, the darkness, the smaller homes. We had a cottage and our windows were like little portholes, like there was very little, natural light that came through. Both can have issues. So in England, it can be low mood, and we call this like yin and yang in Feng Shui. So you may know the symbol yin rhymes with dim, and that's how I remember like that side of it. So the yin is the calmer, dimmer energy, and we need that to calm down. But too much yin, too much darkness means that it's almost like we have no motivation whatsoever, and we really struggle with that. The yang is that effervescent, the light, the houses with all of the glass. And that's what is often the case in Australia. Lots and lots of light coming in, making the most of it. Too much yang can lead to overwhelm, anxiety, and not being able to switch off. So I feel that both, literally opposite ends of the world can suffer if the energy in the home isn't balanced yin and yang, because the bright houses, you have to soften. Otherwise, you won't sleep and you'll feel like you'll go, go, go all the time. And what it can do is create this quite cold environment in the home. And people will retreat to their sort of like smaller spaces around. And in England, it feels like everybody's on top of each other. So I think moving here, I was quite surprised at how difficult it was to relax, almost like at night time when you live in a house that is very open. And so it's about creating spaces and using these remedies in the home in England to lift the mood. And in Australia, to calm everything down, because there's a lot of homes here in Australia that are so open plan. Like I could throw a ball from where I am now and it could get all the way to the other side of the house. Like it's so open, it would just, and that's what energy is like. It's like this bouncing ball that goes around. So in a small space, it would just sort of flow around and it's sort of quite nice. And sometimes it can just lose its energy. But in a big open plan space, that ball, the energy like speeds up. And so the more open plan your home, the more difficult it is to relax and that sort of overwhelm. So yeah, they both have a downside.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's one gentle Feng Shui practice that costs nothing but makes a real difference?
I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. The gratitude for your home, having a relationship with your home, creating that airflow around your home. And actually, start with yourself. Start with your wardrobe and your area of the bedroom, because this comes back to like, where can you feel in your home? Where can you be true to yourself? And we may not have a spot in the living room that's ours or a space where we can retreat to, but you will have a side of the bed. So even if that side of the bed is your space, create an environment around it where you can relax, so you can calm your nervous system down. It may be with some essential oils and soft lamp by the side of your bed, a cozy throw or cushion or rug, something like that. So a space that you can relax. And then I'd like you to go to your wardrobe. And because the wardrobe energetically is linked to so many things, it's linked to your motivation, it's linked to moving forwards. And in Feng Shui, it's about life, it's about energy, it's about moving through life at a beautiful pace, not rushing through, but a beautiful pace. And I think so many of us, and many of my clients, and me included, we keep things in our wardrobe that we don't wear. And obviously, if it costs you a lot of money, but you don't wear it, maybe that's a way of making some money back. So rather than it costing you money, you can make some money back there. But we also have things, and I was so guilty of this in England. I don't have it now because when we moved over here, we had 2 suitcases each and we could only bring that. So I had an amazing declutter of my wardrobe. But I used to have like fat and thin clothes. So like this was like when I'm feeling a bit chubbier, and this is when I was feeling not so chubby. And, and then when I wasn't in my thin clothes, I'd feel so guilty that I can't fit in those thin clothes anymore. And so every time I went into my wardrobe, I'd like be beating myself up because I can't wear this stuff. And also I kept things because they'll do, and I talk about this, often and rightly or wrongly, but like even like your underwear, like wearing the knickers that you've had for 10 years just because, you've kept them. And, you deserve nicer things. I'm not saying that you have to spend fortunes on things, but when you dress in a way that brings you joy, then that will lift your mood instantly. And I used to do this in England all the time if I was really struggling. And when I used to teach, I used to wear the brightest of jumpers. I was outside a lot, so I had to wear dark trousers and maybe a dark sort of cardigan. But I'd wear the brightest of jumpers because I felt I needed to bring energy. Their teaching hours, bless them, it was a university, so like semester time. Well, all schools are really in England, September to like just after Easter. So a massive chunk of their time was in the winter, outdoors, freezing. We used to have hot water bottles like underneath our jumpers, trying to keep ourselves warm, hand warmers, all of it. And so I had to bring that joy into the classroom, and they'd be there with like 27 jumpers on. And I still do that now. I try and wear colours that make me happy. I wear a perfume every day that makes me happy. And I listen to music that makes me happy. So go into your wardrobe, and even if you condense it right down, that doesn't matter because you'll wear your stuff. I don't actually have that many clothes and I wear the same stuff on repeat. And I think when you allow yourself to be unapologetically wearing the same top, 4 times in a row when you meet someone, who cares? If it brings you joy and happiness, then that is a beautiful start. So finding a place where you can relax and you can calm down. And I think sleep, for women going through perimenopause and menopause, like sleep is one of the things that really can impact you. And creating a calm space around your bed is really important for slowing that energy down. And then dress in a way that literally lights your mood, and give yourself permission just to let go of all the stuff in your wardrobe that makes you feel guilty.
It's a funny thing. Well, it'd be over 15 years ago when I was working in an office. I used to go to the gym before I went to work. Oh, you've just reminded me of something. And I remember going to the gym and noticing that everybody around me had very nice underwear, and I was sort of wearing something a little bit British and grey. And I said, "Oh my God, I need some new underwear."
Yeah.
So I went out and bought a whole load of new underwear. And when I put it on, I thought to myself, God, I was doing that not to let myself down in front of other people. But actually, why wasn't I doing that just for me?
Yes. Yes. It's so true. And I don't know what it is with undies. I need to go and get some new ones as well because just over time they don't look great enough. You'll wash them with the wrong colours, but it's almost because you're like, oh, well, no one else will see them. So I can just get away with it. But I know, and I know that when I put on something nice, just because no one else can see it, it makes me so much happier.
And I think too, it's like, how often do you buy yourself a plant? How
Yeah.
often do you buy yourself flowers? Because I know they're not going to last very long, but they must be Feng Shui plants and flowers, for goodness sake.
They're the most
Right.
beautiful because they're fresh, they're life, they're energy. Anything like that you bring in. So if you're feeling down, go and buy yourself some nice flowers. Like nice flowers, a nice candle, a nice incense stick. Like whenever I come and sit down to work, I have like my routine of things, of stuff that just like brings me joy and happiness. And that is like, I've got a plant, I have my incense stick, I put on music that I love. And I think we just feel really guilty for buying ourselves stuff. And we just put ourselves last for so many reasons.
But sometimes it seems like the preparation that's part of the journey. So when I'm teaching yoga online or teaching Qigong online, but particularly yoga because I use a mat, whereas Qigong I don't, but the space is clear, it's clean. I do have incense. It's not going to affect anybody who's got a cough or a cold because it's online.
Yeah.
And when we go on holiday, we put aside the clothes we're going to pack. That's part of being on holiday, isn't it? It's the preparation to go is part of creating the feeling of joy in so many ways.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when you're feeling not great, and I remember this like after I had my daughter, and I wasn't feeling great. And one day I just thought, I need to change this. And it was literally like a switch. And I remember going, I'm flicking this switch, and I'm going to rebuild, even though I don't want to, like, I don't feel ready to be bouncing, around, but I need to start doing things that are going to build me up. And I talk about it in the book as I call it hitting a sustainable 7, like an energy level of 7 out of 10, and like a happiness level 7 out of 10. And 10 out of 10 would be exhausting. That's, you've won something, you've got a new job, or, that, yes, it's great, but that's your dopamine chasing level, and we don't want to be there. And every day I don't wake up a 7. Absolutely not. But what we need to do is create this checklist of things that helps us to move up. And as you say, that preparation to make us feel better, and all of these things. And it can be whatever it is that you want to do, whether, you go out for a walk, you listen to your favorite song, for me, it's things like getting ready for the day and putting makeup on and doing my hair and wearing, and I know that's quite, an outward thing, but it makes me feel better. Putting an incense stick on and all of these things, having a coffee, like for me, making a coffee in the morning is this real ritual of, and I make, my husband one, and all of these things. And I think what it doesn't need to be is another thing for people to do. I don't meditate very often. Probably should do a bit more to calm my brain, but my meditation is going out for a walk. So whatever it is to you, don't feel that you're adding on time, but it's about how can you build yourself up on the inside so that you can then give. And it goes back to that phrase, like, you just can't pour from an empty cup, but we try. We try and try, but eventually it will catch you up.
I think women in particular are guilty of that, to be honest. I don't mean to be sexist in any way, but a lot of women I know pour from an empty cup. And I have as well, very much so.
Yeah. We're like these caregivers, and
Yeah, it goes with the job, doesn't it? Of being female.
Yeah.
We're coming to a very interesting time, aren't we? In terms of cycles, the year of the fire horse. How does that affect Feng Shui at all?
So Feng Shui has cycles of energy. So we know the daily cycle. Everybody knows about that. We have the seasonal cycle. And then, of course, because Feng Shui likes to be overcomplicated, we have 2 other cycles as well. So we have an annual cycle, and this is where we're moving into the year of the fire horse. And that happens, that's Chinese New Year, which is like the 17th of February. And then we also have the Feng Shui New Year, which is like the change of energy in the home, which is around the 4th of February. So February is a huge energetic month. And I love it because it means that we can sort of scrap the New Year's resolutions. In January, we can ease into the year, and it's a time to reassess and just to see how the year's feeling so far before we go, okay, this is what I would like during 2026. So 2025 was the year of the wood snake, and a lot of it is about shedding. So like a snake sheds its skin, and it's about leaving behind. And you can do this anytime. Don't think, and I think people think, oh, I'm listening to, it's March. Can I still do it? You can still do it. What is it that you want to leave behind before you move forwards? And again, this is where we're constantly filling ourselves, and we can't do everything if we keep doing everything. We can't, there's no space to allow, whether it's what you want, a new job, time, more money, like all of these things, we have to physically or metaphorically make space for these things to come in. So what is it that you want to leave behind? And it doesn't have to be really deep or complicated. It doesn't have to be a person. It doesn't have to be upsetting. Sometimes it can be, but it just gives you that permission to do it. So for me, I want to leave behind busyness. I was busy last year, and I almost used it it was just a thing that I said. I'm too busy. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. I'm so busy that I haven't been to the optometrist. Like I was 6 months late to go and get my eyes tested. I have needed to go and get something checked out of the doctors. Like I've got a brilliant varicose vein coming. So I was like, I need to go and get that sorted. Well, it's been there for about a year and I haven't, because I've been too busy. So I need to drop that. Too busy to go for a walk. I need to drop that, because we're all going to get to the end of the year at the same time, but we can all decide how quickly and how busy we are up until that point. So that's what I want to leave behind. Now, the fire horse coming up, the horse energy, as you can imagine, is quite quick. It's a quick moving energy. And so what we just need to do before we get into the latter stages, before going into too much detail really, the latter stages of the year of the fire horse, is we need to prepare for this speed. And so what is it that you can do to plan for things maybe moving and traveling quicker? So what can you be more efficient at? What can you maybe take out of your diary? How can you plan better? Like, I'm awful at ending up going to the supermarket most days just to quickly get something for tea because I'm too busy to go and do a full shop. I could do it. I just need to plan my time a little bit better. So that's just those, and it doesn't have to be, world-changing things that you can do, but what can you do to give yourself more time? And it's self-care. Self-care is going to be so important moving into this year, because that's how we are going to stop this overwhelm and this perhaps burnout that is going to be coming from things moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So like your yoga, your qigong, all of those things, like how can you care for yourself to look after your own energy? And I think sometimes we're led to believe that self-care is, a face mask or a bath bomb or whatever it is. Self-care is even things like how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself, whether you allow to fill your cup, buy yourself some flowers or a plant or whatever it is. Those things are going to be really important before we really progress into this next year.
You talked about the changes coming, and it's certainly something I've been reflecting on, the self-care for 2026. I've done quite a big review of it, and I think it's easier to do when I'm away from my life.
Yes.
But when you're in it, you can't seem to see the wood for the trees. And I think that it's amazing how once you take that kind of decision to look at your life and see, I mean, when you look at it in a real way, you just see, oh, that is so out of balance, that is so out of perspective. No wonder I was excluded. That's ridiculous. And I definitely have had the too busy syndrome, and that is definitely being knocked on the head this year. I know, we've got the 4th of February and the 17th, and you are doing a free workshop on the 4th of February. Synchronicity, isn't it?
Yes, I am. And I think what I'm often asked about is, like, what can I do? What can I do in my home? What can I do for me? And the best way to go around it is, rather than firefighting, is to find out what's coming. So the 4th of February, I'll talk about just giving you permission again. What are you really seriously going to leave behind? Like, let's be serious now. Make this decision. What is it that we're taking forwards? How we're going to manage it? But what we're also going to be doing is like a 6-month energy planner. So what energy is coming over the next 6 months? And so we can plan out the next 6 months, make a note. Okay, this month we might feel like this in the home. This month might be more free and easy. And I think when you know what's coming, then you can plan for it better. So Feng Shui is essentially astrology for the home. So we often know our own astrology. I had an amazing astrology reading last week that was brilliant. And so I know what's coming for me personally. And then by knowing what's coming energetically around the house as well, then I know that I'm giving myself the best opportunity to plan for what's coming. And that's what I'm going to be going through in the workshop.
It sounds fascinating. I can't wait. The people who attend your courses, because you train, well, obviously globally, because your training courses cover UK times and Australia times.
Yes.
Are most people who come, are they beginners? Are they professional people? Or are they just people who are in transition and curious?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. Transition and curious tends to be most of the people. I think some people want to do it as a business. Some people just want to learn something new. Some people, I had a lady last year from Ohio, and she was like, my friends are retiring and I am not ready to retire. Like, I want to fill my brain with this amazing information and be part of this group of people who are in this together and challenging ourselves and being part of this beautiful world. And I think when you anchor into something like that, it's the most beautiful feeling, especially when the world is just feeling a little bit on edge at the moment, that to be part of this really special place, both for you mentally, because it gives you, it's almost like opening your eyes to this whole other world. Like, you're like, wow. And you just see everything so differently. To learn, to challenge yourself, because we don't often learn new things as we get older. Some people haven't learned anything since they've been at school. And so it can be scary. It can be scary coming and learning something new. But that's where I use my 10 years of teaching to be able to teach it in a way that's fun. And so it's a whole different group of people. And I always say it's like, if you think of school, we're not the coolest kids in the playground, but we're the people that are friends for life. Like, we're the people that people want to come and hang out with. And we all look completely different from all corners of the world, have different things going on, but we all have that beautiful core together. And that's really what makes it so special.
So your way you're describing it is, it's not a one-off fix. It's like a skill for life.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And some people do it because they want to just fix their own home, and they want to just live in an environment that really supports them and their family, or they may want to help their children. So quite often, in fact, there's been two people that come to mind, both their children were having difficulty getting pregnant, and they wanted to help them in their homes, because as caregivers, we want to sort of help, everybody around us. And that's what's really beautiful. So there's a real mix, and there's people that come in and they go, this is what I want. I don't want to work in the corporate world anymore. I want to have a career where I can balance it around my life. Or there's been a couple of Qigong practitioners, for example, that said, actually, do you know what? This marries really nicely. I can work with people, their inner energy and their home as well, and the elements and how all of that works together. So I teach it as if you know nothing on week one, because I turned up fresh-faced to my course I didn't know there were different schools of Feng Shui. There's about 120 of them. And there's so many different ways. I had no idea, but I knew it worked. And so that's how I teach it, is literally just getting to understand the concept of energy. It's a very visual teaching. It's not a course that's filled with textbooks and slides, and I layer the information. It's about feeling it. It's about feeling into it. And that is why I think it's so special, because it's so different to how we were perhaps taught when we were at school.
I think you've probably got a lot of wealth from the feedback that you get from people. I don't mean wealth in financial terms. I mean in human terms, in terms of, and I know you don't do it for appreciation, but if you are helping people feel as though their lives have been uplifted in any way whatsoever, that must be such a worthwhile feeling for doing what you're doing.
I honestly feel that I've got the best job in the world. Like, I I'm a huge empath. My personality is I'm a huge empath, and I'm somebody that, Patrick laughs, like when we go to a party or whatever, he's like, you're always in the corner and somebody's telling you all their problems. And like, I was just always that person. And I don't know, I'll go for a coffee and end up, finding out something awful that's happened in somebody's family or something like that. But I love it because I just feel that everyone needs to speak about everything, because it makes you realize that you're not alone. But what I found really difficult was when I couldn't help people. I could just listen. And I think now, when people tell me something that's going off in their lives, I can at least give them a little bit of hope that something may get them out of their current situation, whatever that is. And then when you get a message back saying, Kimberley, oh my goodness, like, this has happened. I mean, I think I cry daily, like, and I'm not sure whether that's a healthy thing or not, but it's the most beautiful feeling. And I think, again, that's what's transitioned from being a teacher as well, that, the admin of being a teacher, that can go in the bin. Like, that's the most awful part of being a teacher, and the red tape and all things like that. But when you get the child through that struggled on day one and they've just passed their exam, that's the best feeling, because their lives have changed and you've had a part of that. And for me, that is, looking back, I think that's maybe why I'm here on earth, to try and help others through this crazy journey of life.
How very beautiful. So where can people find you, Kimberley?
Oh, so I'm the Feng Shui Flow. That's my website, thefengshuiflow.com. And my Instagram is the Feng Shui Flow. And as you say, my book is called The Calm and Happy Home. And it should be in most retailers. It's online. And if it's not in your local bookshop, please go and say to them, it must be in.
It's on Amazon anyway, so
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. And that's just, it's filled with so many tips, but hopefully that it's not so overwhelming if you've never been introduced to this concept before.
it's not at all. It's beautifully written. It's beautifully put together. And I think it's a lovely book in terms of you can dip in and out and go back and look at a chapter that kind of refers to where you're at. And you do home analysis for people wherever they may be in the world as well. And you
Yes, again, yeah, so grateful. I can dip in. I'm just looking at a house at the minute in England. I've been to New Zealand already this morning. I have a client in Bermuda. Like, it's incredible. And so I can help people in their homes that way if they feel that they just need to get their home fixed. And I also run, the practitioner course as well, and the workshops. Just I'm trying to help as many people around the world as I possibly can.
It sounds like a very full and fulfilling life. We won't say busy, will we? But very
Just
full.
no busyness. Yeah. And in fact, I have my I'll show you. This is not good for podcasting, but this is my little mantra for this year. I don't know if it's spun it around, but it says less work and more magic. And so that's all about leaving the business behind and doing things that reaches as many people around the world as possible. And I look at that every morning and go, right, that's what we're attracting in 2026.
I think that's fantastic. I'll pinch it off you.
Yeah.
I'm really aware of your time, Kimberley. So I just would like to sort of begin to close down, unless there's something else you would like to bring up.
No, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed this chat. It's been beautiful.
Well, I have followed you from afar, and how special it is to actually see you and speak to you. And so as we come to the end of this conversation, I'm really deeply aware how our personal relationship can be with our home, and how it shifts as we move through different seasons of life, whether we're staying put or reshaping or preparing to move somewhere. Feng Shui invites us to move with intention rather than urgency. So if you're moving home or just standing on the edge of change, You might like to remember this. I took notes, you see. Take a moment to acknowledge and thank the place you're leaving for what it held, taught, or protected. Allow yourself time to arrive in a new space before fixing or perfecting it. Balance, rest, and relaxation, especially in your bedroom, so your whole nervous system knows it's safe. For me, because I was an army child, we moved every 2.5 years. It was important to bring something familiar to every home we had because I found that very anchoring. And trust that connection grows over time. A home doesn't need to be complete to be supportive. When I go back to the UK, I am definitely sorting out my clothes. Everything's going to get sorted out my clothes cupboards. Oh my word, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today, not just about homes, but about the deeper relationship we have with the spaces that hold our lives. So if listeners feel drawn to go further, Kimberley's courses offer a way to learn these principles in a grounded, thoughtful and empowering way. And as you've probably heard, I am a huge admirer of the calm and happy home. Please get it, it's everywhere. And to everyone listening, may your home, wherever you are right now, support you in feeling calmer, happier, and more at ease. Bless you, Kimberley. Thank you so much for your time, patience, and fabulous conversation. Thank you for sharing this quiet space with me. I hope it brought you a sense of peace and presence. If you feel moved to, I'd love to hear how it landed for you. Your thoughts and feedback really help me shape future sessions with care. You're welcome to subscribe and share this with anyone who might find it helpful. And if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast or simply connect, I'd love to hear from you. Until we meet again, go gently.